What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from Zoom again, and this time we are here with Andrew of Comback Kid. Thank you so much for being here. It's great to have you here.
What's up, man? Yeah, good to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you here as well. Before we get into like all things shop, actually talking about the new album and everything, I did want to ask one little fan question, if that's cool. But as I mentioned before we started rolling, I discovered Comeback Kid when I was 11 years old through a video game called Burnout Racing. You were playing guitar at the time of Wake the Dead. Do you just remember
Hell yeah,
any?
Burnout.
Yep. Do you remember anything about being featured on that game at all? Because I played the shit out of that game.
Yeah, dude. I actually think that kind of was an interesting time for the band, and we got exposed to a lot of people that wouldn't have necessarily heard us through Burnout, and also NHL 2006. I think the same year we got featured on both of those. Both times it was from the song "Wake the Dead," which is proved to be the song of the band. You know what I mean? Like the song kind of almost is bigger than the band, I feel like, in a way. So yeah, no, it definitely was a way for us to be heard
There,
in places that wouldn't have necessarily heard us.
There is no doubt in my mind that the programmers of that game were just hardcore kids because that whole Burnout, not even just that game, but that whole series had Motion City soundtrack. It had, Pennywise on there. It had Rise Against. It had Jimmy Eat World, My Chemical Romance. So it had like a bunch of hardcore bands and a bunch of emo bands. I credit that game for making people into that music.
And actually, what's kind of crazy is I know somebody whose friend like works in like syncing and like licensing and stuff, but apparently I heard a rumor that they're trying to do like a Burnout, like a redux of it, like now and it'll probably be like a lot of nostalgia stuff. So I heard about it, so that maybe I could try to maybe get some money out of that song. I don't know.
That would be great. That would be great. I mean, that game just again got so many people into music, and I think for video games were helped a lot of bands as well. So huge shout out to
Totally.
Burnout. I would have never thought that playing.
The Tony Hawk equivalent, or like what's the rock band, like the rock band equivalent,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
that time.
But I never would have thought bringing my PSP to everywhere I went as a kid that I would be interviewing Comeback Kid, and every
Hell
song
yeah.
on Burnout was also the first songs I've ever bought on iTunes. I have a playlist. Like the first song I've ever bought on iTunes was "Here I Am" by The Explosion.
Oh, that's awesome. And I mean, I have things like that too in my life. For example, like the Crow soundtrack, like the Brandon Lee movie, The Crow. I mean, I remember that was one of my first times, hearing Pantera or, some of the more alternative stuff that was on there. You know, Soundtracks like that. Or there's also been for me, there's this company called Columbia House where you'd get like 10 CDs for 5 cents. I don't know, it was a weird deal, but everyone scammed it somehow and got like a bunch of free CDs and didn't really actually sign up for it. But just little funny things like that where tons of people are just getting into like this one streamlined style of music. I think that's great.
Yeah,
So
definitely. And now focusing more on the present, but we have the new album Heavy Steps coming out in 2022. Did you consider this just picking up where you left off after Outsider, or is this meant to signify like a new beginning for Comeback Kid in a way?
I mean, dude, every record that we do, we hope that it's kind of a new beginning. We're not ever trying to like kind of continue on. We started writing this, you know, right when the pandemic started. So we were all at home in our individual houses, and we would write stuff and send to because we all live in different cities. But yeah, it was just kind of, we've been a band for 20 years, and so it takes us about 3 years to kind of feel like starting to write. Two to 3 years until we're actually like writing again, because we'll put out a record, we'll tour it for 2 or 3 years, and then we're like, okay, now let's think about some new stuff. But actually this time we recorded enough songs for an album and probably another album. So we'll probably have a lot more music coming out over the next like 2-3 years from now. But usually it's like, we'll do a record, give us some time, let the dust settle, and then we'll feel like, writing again. And it's always a brand new thing. This is definitely the new chapter of the band, obviously after the pandemic. So everything's fresh, everything's new. And we're doing things in a new way, just even with when it comes to like these kind of interviews, which, over video all the time, or just the way that we release our music and social media. And it's a lot more about the visuals and the videos. And it's all like 2.0 or 3.0, whatever. Actually it's LP7, so this is 7.0.
Hell yeah. Do you,
But
do you feel that the first two singles that you released, No Easy Way Out and the title track, Heavy Steps, is maybe a good representation of what the entire album is going to sound like, or is there a lot more to be discovered?
I wish that I could say yes, but there's a lot more to be discovered. Like, I don't even think that so far people who are listening to these songs have heard the melodic hardcore, the melodic kind of like anthemic style songs that we are kind of maybe known for. And there's tons of that on this record. More punk. Like, I think those two songs have a little bit more maybe of a metal element to it. And even the song, we're releasing a song on December 3rd. This might be out by then, but that's going to have Joe from Gojira on it. And that's going to also be like pretty metal. So, but that's not to say that when the record comes out, there's like a lot of melodic songs on there. It's still like probably I would say our most aggressive sounding record, and the tones are a little heavier as far as guitars go. Shout out Rev Amps. But no, there's a lot of dynamics and different styles, and totally that kind of Comeback Kid anthemic stuff, which I realize we haven't really like teased too much yet.
Yeah.
But it's coming.
Those two singles definitely left me wanting more, I could tell you that much. And
hell yeah.
Was there like maybe a preconceived idea of what you wanted Heavy Steps to sound like, or was there maybe like a lot of experimentation and a lot of trial and error?
Definitely a lot of experimentation. And like there's three predominant songwriters in our band as well right now, so I can't really like speak for Jeremy or Stu when they're bringing riffs to the table. My stuff is always kind of all over the place. I'll have songs that are a little bit more metal, and then some songs that are definitely a lot more like a festival, beer punk song or something like that. And that's kind of some of the range that we can kind of fall between, with all the styles of our influences. So it's just like we're all different, and I wouldn't say that there's like, okay, we're gonna kind of like go this direction, but it always finds its way. You know what I mean? But there's a few cooks in the kitchen, and we're just trying to make each other happy,
Yeah.
and trying to one up each other too. Like, oh shit, that song's pretty dope. I need to like make sure I come to the table with something cool too.
Yeah. That's cool. I think some people think it's a negative, but when there's like a competitive nature in the band where you all like drive each other to do better, I think that only speaks. I mean, I think every Comeback Kid album I think gets better and better and better every single time. So I think that chemistry works very well.
Yeah, I'm just trying to not fuck up. Like, I want to like prove that like I deserve to be here.
Fair enough. Now, being that you're the vocalist of the band, but you started off in guitar with "Turn It Around" and "Wake the Dead." Correct me if I'm wrong, but "Broadcasting" was the first album where you were on vocals. So, like, were you when you switched the vocals and you became the front man, did you almost express yourself a little bit differently than how you would have expressed yourself with guitar? Is it almost like a simple mind game? Or being that, I feel like Comeback Kid has its own signature attitude, it still felt like you were in the same band and you were expressing the same thing with just a different medium?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, like me and Scott, our previous vocalist, would write a lot of the vocals together, and I'd like, be in the studio with him and working on line by line and whatever, and the lyrics and stuff. But I think at first it was about trying to kind of like sound like him a little bit. Okay, I'm going to do Scott now, it's kind of take his voice. But I think I really found my voice a couple records after that. I don't really love the Broadcasting record. A lot of people say that they really like it, but it's not really my fantasy. I think Symptoms and Cures was our next record after that. I felt like it got better. But then I think I kind of hit my stride with Die Knowing, and then the records after that. And the new record for sure is like, I was able to, like, I love vocal production. I love being in the studio and trying out different kinds of plugins and things with vocals, and, putting the vocals here and then here and here, and like kind of making it sound a little bit more interesting. Because we're a pretty stripped down band, like as far as the music goes, like 2 guitars, bass, drums, let's go. But just to kind of have little elements of like candy, like ear candy, is always really fun for me. And I tried to, we tried to really push that on this record for sure. I think this is my favorite one vocally.
As a vocalist,
I
because
felt the most. I think I felt the most confident in this one vocally for sure. I didn't lose my voice once, so usually I do.
that's always a plus. Do you?
Yeah.
Because with a vocalist, it's not just worrying about the tone or melody or the technique, but it's also lyricism. I mean, have you always needed to hear the music to come up with lyrics, or can a lyrical concept or a lyrical idea maybe influence the direction of the sound?
I need to hear if it's someone else's song. I have to hear their songs before I can write lyrics to it. But when I write songs, sometimes I'll usually do the vocal pattern and the guitars all at the same time. Like, but the pattern of the vocals always comes before the lyrics, unless there's something like that I hear that I'm like, oh shit, that's like a really great line that I want to like somehow incorporate. But again, it's like I'm usually trying to find. I have the cadence before the actual content. I think most of the time.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's cool that you get the pattern down, because nothing could be more heartbreaking, right, than having the best lyrics ever, but then they're always like one syllable over like every arrangement or something like that.
Totally, dude. Like actually, I got someone sent me, our old bass player sent me a pitch for a 7-Eleven commercial, and they want a song that sounds like Turnstyle for a 7-Eleven commercial, but the lyrics were big bite, big life. And so it was like about a month ago, I just made a song with my buddy, sent it in, kind of like, made it sound like that. And it was weird because like usually these like advertisers aren't really asking for like hardcore adjacent style stuff, but I got an email yesterday. It's exactly what you're talking about. They're like, okay, we like the song, but can we change it to, what was the, fresh or clean is the lyrics they want now. So I'm like, how do I change big bite, big life to fresh or clean and then still kind of make it sound kind of cool?
Yeah.
But it's just fun things. Like, this is just like, it's an opportunity to make some money, but it's also like just a fun way a fun exercise to do music and like not take it too seriously and change some lyrics, make them, they're kind of funny lyrics, but we'll see what happens,
You got to be like the hardcore version of Justin Timberlake when he sang the McDonald's theme.
Dude, I'll take it. I'm not gonna say it for Comeback Kid, but I'll do it for 7-Eleven. Yeah.
Well, and you mentioned they wanted something that sounded like Turnstyle. I mean, I love that new Turnstyle album. That is that is going to be, when I look back at the summer of 2021, that's going to be the album I go back to. But like, I really could see them now. That style, with how much that post-hardcore shit has been taken off, I could honestly see them making jingles for anything. And try to remember, when they were marketing Garnier shampoo, they were using a Transplant song. So hardcore is good marketing.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, are they the new Rage Against the Machine? When you look back at this, like 10 years from now, is that kind of the same thing we're gonna think of when we think of that? But it was just like jokes in general, just to kind of have that come across. Like, hey, we're looking for this song. We want it to sound like this band. Like, all right, like I'll try.
Hey, that's cool that you're open to challenges and trying new things as well. Some people are like, I only do this.
If you're if we can do our band and keep it like the way that we want to keep it, but then on the flip side, if I have things that come across my desk that are music related and to help me sustain my life, that's like that's the dream for me. I don't get these kind of opportunities outside of the band very often, so it's just fun. So.
Yeah. And doing your band too, because I mean, when you compare Turn It Around to now with Heavy Steps, I mean, again, there's a constant evolution and experimentation. So there's no such thing really as like you don't worry about a Comeback Kid song sounding too much like a Comeback Kid song, right?
Yeah, almost on the flip side, like I don't do this as much, but for example, like Stu, our guitar player, he wasn't in the band when we first started, so he'd be like, dude, I really want to make a song kind of like False Idols Fall from like Wake the Dead record, like let's kind of do something with that energy. Like, yeah, I'm down. Like, and then to me, when it comes out, it never really sounds like that, but I do appreciate trying to write a song like and kind of having a vision like, hey, let's kind of like emulate this idea or this feeling. I think that's important, and to define things when you're songwriting, especially when you're like with other people and you kind of need some sort of like direction to go. it's easy, like unless you want to just kind of while out, like that sometimes gets like the most interesting music by just kind of like letting yourself go. But I think it is a lot of times important to define what you're trying to do and where you're trying to go with it.
Definitely. And you mentioned too, being that there's three songwriters in Comeback Kid. Do you prefer? Is it easier to maybe come up with new material or think of new ideas when you're in the company of each other and you could work off each other, or when it comes to cultivating new ideas? Isolation is a great fuel for creativity. Do you prefer to kind of like be alone in your own element?
I like both. I like to have a little bit of time to think, but when collaboration is really, really good. I just think it's a matter of what it's a matter of the headspace when you're collaborating, I think. But I definitely need a little bit, like even like when I am collaborating, I need a little bit, hey, I need a time to like kind of go by myself and kind of sing it over in my head myself. If there's a transition that I can't get, it's kind of sometimes hard to do in front of the room with everybody. But that can change. But sometimes you need that little spark. Someone plays something in the corner, you're like, oh shit, what is that? And then you can kind of really feed off those kind of little happy accidents sometimes. So I can see both. I work with bands sometimes that aren't my own, and that's all it is. It's all it is being in the room with them and working on their songs and coming up with ideas like really quick on the fly. And that's kind of like what the job is about when I get in there with other bands. But then sometimes when it's with my band, we kind of like, we want to make it really, really good. So you're kind of holding your material a little closer to your heart.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah. I like that. Just give me like a little bit to kind of think about it, and I'll come back to you in like a few minutes with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's that element too.
Yeah, and when working with other bands, do you sometimes like think of new ideas for Comeback Kid and kind of like sneak it in your back pocket in a way?
It's happened, but then I'm all, fuck it, let's use this for, let's be immediate. I try to be immediate, and sometimes you think, oh shit, I should keep this, but I've done that before, and then it's never ever worked in the future. So
Okay.
Almost like let it out. If it's good, great. And then something else new will come.
Okay. But when it comes for you to get that inspiration, that artistic energy, do you almost like look for it? Like, is there a usual place that you go to, or do ideas sometimes strike when you least expect it?
They strike when you least expect it, but actually when I need to work on it, I just need to make sure that I don't have too much else on the docket. Like when there's too much hanging or life or work and these kind of things going on, it's definitely hard to like get in the mindset. Like I need to smoke a joint, walk around a little bit, have a coffee, and kind of really figure it out.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean also too, there's no denying, because I can't pigeonhole Comeback Kid into, the periodic table of subgenres that are out there now. Like, there's elements of punk, there's elements of hardcore, there's elements of metal, there's elements of rock. So is it also, I know this is kind of like a cliche question, but like, is it fair to say that Comeback Kid has had many different inspirations growing up as well?
100%. I mean, we're always going to consider ourselves like a hardcore band. But yeah, we get influence from everything from like a Robin song to a metal song or something. I'm just, for lack of better influences, there's all kinds of music that, and even just with like cool chord progressions, you can hear something in the most random space. Like, oh, that's a really cool way that note falling from that note made me feel. So I would like to kind of, that's what I'll take and put in the back pocket, just the certain chord progressions and how that kind of gives you that emotional feeling. Oh shit, I can use this for, and make kind of like a heavy song,
Definitely.
That kind of stuff.
Now, you mentioned like, labeled as a hardcore band. This is my favorite question to ask, especially being in New York City, the hardcore capital of the world. But like, do you almost, what is hardcore? Let's kind of like start with that. Like, what makes a band hardcore? Is it a message? Like, I've interviewed Roger Merritt of Agnostic Front. He thinks hardcore is, the definition of it is mainly through lyricism, but then there's also a sound that some people would say hardcore is associated with. Some people say it's a statement or it's a lifestyle. To you, what makes a band hardcore in order for it to be classified as hardcore?
I mean, I'm not the judge and the jury for sure, and the judge and the jury may not agree with my sentiments, but dude, let's be real. A hardcore is a community across the world. I've met people all across the world because of hardcore and punk. Um, there's some sort of understanding, I think, throughout when we're doing shows of, the hopefully the respect that we give to one another and the support that we give to one another. And you just really understand the community aspect of it, the worldwide aspect of it, and as far as as hardcore is always on the front of a lot of like culture and what kind of trickles down into the mainstream. For us, it's just a lot about holding each other accountable, having our values, representing ourselves in our music, and just being real with our music. And here's the thing, I've been asked this question before, but I think that what I consider it to be hardcore ethos or punk rock ethos, there's other people in other like genres and lifestyles that would hold some of those same ethics, even other just like styles of music. So I don't know. I'm not so like cut and dry about it. I think it can be a little fluid.
Yeah, well, I love because one thing I never understood is how somebody could not like metal but like hardcore or like metal. Let me scratch that.
I understand. Yeah. I understand that.
Yeah,
I understand how people could.
Yeah, because I mean,
sometimes people need the strip. Like to them, it's like hardcore is stripped down, a little bit more raw. Metal sometimes is just a little bit overproduced. It's over, like it has the rock star element of it a little bit more, that it's kind of cheesy sometimes to some hardcore people. And hardcore, the true hardcore is definitely a little more stripped down and raw in your face. It's got to be in your face.
Yeah. Well, when I interviewed Lamb of God last year, Campbell said that hardcore is more about passion and metal's more about technical. So I thought that was maybe sort of like a good element behind it, because I thought in the end, like Slayer, Lamb of God, Megadeth, they're all brutally honest and in your face, and so is Cro-Mags and Sick of It All and Agnostic Front. So like I kind of never understood.
Hardcore is definitely not focused on precision. I'll tell you that much.
I've been to enough hardcore shows and been to enough pits.
A lot of precision, you can let that slide. I think with hardcore, I think there's some other elements that would be a little more important.
Yeah. Well, as somebody who has been hardcore kicked in the nuts numerous times, I could tell you that precision is not one of their strengths either. With how they.
No.
or maybe it is, and just not in instrumentation. But before we go.
No.
Oh yeah, you were saying.
I was gonna say none of us are worried about our sweeps. None of that.
Yeah, fair enough. And one breath of fresh air is, if you are a guitar tech, you want to work for a hardcore band, because nothing is more annoying than dealing with somebody who has like 37 pedals on their fucking board.
True, but I've seen the guys in Madball scold their techs before. I wouldn't want to be on the receiving side of that.
I was at that controversial Madball show in the park earlier this year.
Oh hell yeah! I just watched Hoya's vlog about it. Hoya Rock's vlog the other day. I've been just like at home, just doing work and like watching YouTubes and shit.
Yeah, I was there, and regardless of how people feel about it, I think both sides of the argument are both equally valid. All I'm saying is, I got to witness history, and I'm very thankful.
It looked like a good show. It looked like a good show.
Yeah, it was the most packed local show we've ever seen. So, if you know what I mean.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's great, man.
Yeah, but before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time, and great. It's so great that we can make this happen. Is there just anything else that you would like to promote with the release of Heavy Steps for Comeback Kid? Like, could we be seeing you on the road in North America fairly soon?
Yeah, like when is this out?
By midnight tonight, if I'm allowed to. I got to double check with the label.
Sick. Hell yeah. Well, we just did our East Coast tour. We were just at the Brooklyn Monarch actually a couple weeks ago.
Oh, great venue. It's brand new.
Hell yeah. Yeah, no, I know those dudes that did that venue, and I guess they opened up right before the pandemic happened. They had like one show, and then that happened. So shout out to Brooklyn Monarch, Chip and crew there. But our next tour starts on December 5th in Las Vegas with No Warning. Zulu, and Scowl, and that is going to be doing like Vegas, and then like go to Southern California. We got a few shows down there. This benefit show called For the Children, which is going to be a little bit of a 2-day festival at the Echoplex in LA, and then we're going to be going up to Seattle, and that's kind of our next US stuff. And we got Europe and a few other things, and Canada next year. Europe, I don't know if they're going to be shut down or if it's still going to happen, but we're plowing forward, seeing what happens.
Hell yeah, that's the only way to. It's the only way to do it, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys around. But thank you so much, everybody. We are here with.
Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, everybody. We are here with Comeback Kid. Be sure to check out Heavy Steps coming out February of 2022. We'll see you next time on Heavy New York.
December 3rd, our new video and single called Crossed comes out, and it features Joe from Gojira on that shit too. So check that out. December 3rd.
You heard it here. See you next time, folks.